Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Friday, September 13th, 2024. I am Dave Biddle. I'll be joined by Jonah Booker in just a moment. We're going to talk about what we've learned about the Buckeyes through two games. They had their first off week, of course. They called it Improvement Week this week. No Buckeye game tomorrow. First of two Saturdays with no Buckeye games, but we just get to sit around and watch football all day. So not the worst thing in the world. Appreciate you guys joining me. Friday the 13th. We're going to bring you a lucky Friday the 13th. Before we get into Ohio State football, I want to let you know about Gooder sunglasses. A great deal you guys can get. I love Gooder sunglasses. I'm serious. I'm a customer because as I am wont to do, they sent us a couple of free pairs. And of course, I lost the ones that I like the most, which is why I don't buy super expensive sunglasses. So I went and bought two more of the one that I really liked that they sent me for free. And here's a good deal you guys can get. And these sunglasses start at $25 a pair. No slip, no bounce, all polarized, all fun. 1-year warranty, 30-day free returns. If you want to support our show and try a pair, Gooder is giving Bucknuts Morning 5 listeners free shipping. You can go to gooder.com/Bucknuts and use code Bucknuts for free shipping. Gooder offers a 30-day money-back guarantee and 100% satisfaction. Again, that's gooder.com/Bucknuts and use code Bucknuts for free shipping. All right, let's bring in the one and only, the fan favorite, Jay Book. How you doing, my friend? Good Friday.
Hey, how are you, good sir?
Good to see you, man. I guess there's no score predictions today. We should do like the Michigan Arkansas State score prediction. I'm actually seriously looking forward to that game. I keep forgetting, even though he played against Ohio State a couple years, I keep forgetting Butch Jones is the head coach at Arkansas State.
And he has them rolling.
They have a sophomore quarterback who's actually pretty good. He was a true freshman last year, was good. We're living in a world, Jay Book, where Arkansas State has a decided advantage at quarterback when they play Michigan in Ann Arbor.
Well, that offense at Arkansas State, they might give Wink Martindale everything that they can handle the way he's calling a defense right now. And I watched a little bit against Arkansas State versus Tulsa because I just had a little money sprinkled on that one, and I was trying to see if these guys can cover the total. Arkansas State's offense is fairly decent. It's going to be an interesting game because if Michigan can't run away from that, that's going to be a further indictment that this program is fraudulent this year.
All right, let's get into the things that we've learned about Ohio State through the first two games. Granted, they've played MAC opponents, but man, I mean, especially against Western Michigan, I mean, that was a near perfect performance. Let's start with Will Howard. I feel like Will Howard is exactly what they need at quarterback, not that he's elite. Your thoughts, what have you learned about Will Howard through the first two games?
I think Will Howard has played better than what I expected to start the first two games, Dave. I think his decision-making has been on point. You have a couple balls that wobble here and there, but for the most part, I've been fairly impressed with his performance. I think he's done really well. I think it's a win-win with him landing here. Kyle McCord at Syracuse. I think you can have two things that are true that, hey, both programs are happy with the decision that they made. Will Howard, the thing about him, Dave, is you can't measure it on the field, is the leadership, the toughness, the heart that he has. That's one thing that's very important for this program. They needed a fiery guy who's going to lead this team that everybody can look at and say, hey, we have a general at the quarterback position. The deep ball, Dave, coming into the season was probably one of his biggest question marks, and he's done fairly well. There's a couple that he probably let it loose a little late. If he'd probably let it rip early on, it probably been a touchdown. But so far, so good when it comes to the deep balls. And I'm really surprised about how dialed in him and Jeremiah Smith are. I mean, you're talking about a quarterback who just arrived here, a true freshman who just arrived here, and those two, they're playing pitch and catch like they've been playing together for 2 to 3 years. So that's absolutely phenomenal to see.
Yeah, and you led me right into my next one. Jeremiah Smith. It's like, is he really going to live up to the hype? Well, we've learned he's exceeded it. I didn't think that was even possible. He's like a legit, I'm not saying he's one of the favorites. Like the favorites, Quinn Ewers win the Heisman. Cam Ward's next. Dylan Gabriel, I think, is next. Will Howard's got pretty good odds. But he's like Jermaine or Jeremiah. Why do I always call him Jermaine? Jeremiah Smith is like a legit Heisman candidate as a true freshman wide receiver. That's insane.
It's crazy how he's such a focal point in the passing game off top, Dave. I mean, what was the talk kind of in the in the spring leading up. It was like, oh, and they were trying to kind of tamper the expectations with Jeremiah because they didn't want the hype to go over top. It was already pretty high, but they were trying to still squash the hype a little bit with him. I didn't envision the first two games that he would be wide receiver one as the focal point. I thought you were going to have a situation where they were going to be spreading the rock around, which they are, but Jeremiah, the yards after the catch is what really makes him special, Dave. You think about that still shot against the last game where he had about 4 or 5 defenders right around him and took that one to the house. So when you're a quarterback and you got a guy like Jeremiah Smith after the catch can get you another 15, 18, 20 yards. Because if you watch that game, Will Howard was knocking on the door for 300 in that first half. If they would have really put the pedal down like they wanted to, he could have easily thrown for 400 in that game easily. Jeremiah Smith could have went off for 200. But yeah, he's a legitimate Heisman candidate because the name is one thing that has to be out there. The name has to have some type of buzz. But if anything, if he continues this pace up, he will be a Biletnikoff finalist, which is crazy for a true freshman.
We also have learned they did a great job in the transfer portal, and they only landed 5 guys. I don't count Julian Sayin. As I said in my column yesterday, Julian Sayin was at Alabama barely longer than all of you were. Like, he was there for like a week. I consider him just kind of a part of the recruiting class. But whether you consider it 5 or 6, they did more of the sniper approach. Some schools use the machine gun approach, and they hit on all of them, including Julian Sayin. We've talked about Will Howard. We knew Caleb Downs was going to be a stud. Quinshon Judkins. Will Kazmarek was a solid get at tight end. Seth McLaughlin, of course, at Will Howard. Seth McLaughlin's the one we've probably not talked enough about. And the coaches and teammates, they love him. We've not seen any of the snapping issues. They did a great job in the transfer portal, only landing 5 guys. And 4 of them are starters, and all of them are heavy contributors. They did a great job.
Right. This is how I know they have a great culture in that locker room, Dave, because you look around the country, you see transfers here. Prime example, Florida State. Florida State has lived off the transfer for several years now. You look at Florida State, it's an absolute dumpster fire. But when you talk to the coaches, you talk to the players in the locker room, the transfers that have came into Ohio State, they have totally brought into what it means to be part of that brotherhood, what it means to be a Buckeye. Seth McLaughlin said he was crying the first game as they were coming out because he was so excited to have an Ohio State uniform on, to come out that tunnel into the shoe. He said it brought tears to his eyes. And this is a guy who's played 400 or 500 snaps under Nick Saban down at Alabama. He's a war daddy down there, and this guy is saying, "Hey, it means so much to me to be playing here." You hear everything that Caleb Downs has said. Quinshon Judkins, his wonderful mother, she's totally embraced the culture and being a Buckeye mother. And so when you see that, Dave, that tells me that the culture is extremely strong, that you can absorb guys that come in from the portal who are playing over guys who have been in that locker room for years, and everybody embraced them with open arms. And those guys, they reciprocate that love to go and play their tails off for you. So I think they absolutely hit a home run. Seth McLaughlin is playing some really good football, Dave. I know that people were banging on him after the playoff game against Michigan and the snap issues. But so far, his leadership, his calming presence in the middle, and oh, by the way, Alabama continues to have snapping problems.
Yep.
And Ryan Day kind of hinted to it in the spring and said it wasn't all on Seth, that there's a cadence issue that needs to be corrected down there with Milroe. And now you're starting to see that continue forward this year with Alabama having snapping issues. But 2 thumbs up. They've hit it out of the park with the transfers. But the most impressive thing to me is how much those guys have really embraced being Buckeyes.
I tell you what, this defense, I think it's the best defense in the country. And I don't know if the talent is more impressive or the depth. So I'm going to call it a tie. Okay, life is good when Jermaine Matthews is a backup.
Yeah.
Caden McDonald is a backup. Arvell Reese is a backup. Those guys, and I could name a bunch of other backups they have. Caden Curry, Kenyatta Jackson. Those three guys stepping up. Caden McDonald just absolutely wrecks the line of scrimmage. Denzel Burke might be a first-round pick. He gets ejected. BS call. We know that. Jermaine Matthews comes in. They don't skip a beat. I know it's Western Michigan. Arvell Reese looks like he's a beast. Those kids are backups as sophomores. I love it, man.
The one thing that I've said on Twitter as well, after going back and watching the first 2 weeks a couple times, the biggest thing and the biggest compliment you can give to a football team is they play freaking hard, Dave. From the starters to the third team, it doesn't matter who's in the game. This football team is so much fun to watch. I love watching this Ohio State football team because they're playing with their hair on fire, and it doesn't matter who the backups are. They are playing extremely hard. They said in the locker room when they were up big against Western, they were telling the backups, "We want a shutout. We want a shutout. Do not let them score on the defense." And then you see those young guys go in there and they still play like it's 0-0. That's impressive. And when you have Ryan Day, and I love how Ryan Day, he's coaching his butt off right now. He is absolutely working the sidelines, getting after the referees, getting in people's in face. The special teams aura and how they go about their business has been completely flipped. So after 2 weeks, I'm just so impressed with how hard those guys are playing. And on that defense, Dave, I mean, you look at what Marshall, Michigan State, Iowa. They might not give up a touchdown until they get to Oregon.
Yeah, seriously, that wouldn't
And
surprise me at all.
right, and you look at these next couple weeks, and they're going to feast. But the one thing that um is impressive though is Caden McDonald. He is poised to be a big time player. I mean, what are you talking about? 6'3", 330, a guy that's twitched up as he is, that's able to fire up the football and play with the leverage that he has. Incredibly impressive. And you mentioned Arvell Reese. He's an he's an absolute beast there. I tell you who else has really impressed me, a young guy, Aaron Scott.
Yes.
Aaron Scott he's playing some really good football as well. And you see the break on the ball, his footwork. I think his footwork is ahead of where it should be for a true freshman. When you watch him break on the football, I'm like, ooh, okay, Aaron, I see you. But yeah, this defense, the way that these veterans are leading the charge right now, Dave, and I tell Ohio State fans, enjoy this season, enjoy this team. They're so much fun, but you rarely see a situation where you have so many veterans that's able to really set the table and show the way for these younger guys because you at Ohio State, they lose a lot of attrition to the NFL. With the veterans coming back and really showing the way for these younger guys, that's going to carry down the line for several years now because these younger guys who are playing right now, and if you, I, one project that I'm going to do is I guarantee you can go down the list, look at the snap counts, Dave. There's probably 20 guys that have doubled the snap counts that they had last year already in the first two games. Those valuable reps, those are incredible. Those are incredible because Ryan Day said on his show on a podcast this week, the biggest thing that he learned over the last several years, he made a mistake not playing younger guys early and getting them ready to play. And he mentioned the Julian Saying 51-yard touchdown. And he said, it was a mistake on my part as a coach to go and sit on the football and just say, hey, we're getting out of there. He goes, I can't take that rep back from Julian saying the experience to going into the shoot and throwing a 50-plus yard touchdown. If I would have just sit on the ball, he wouldn't have that experience. So that was a mistake on my part. And I thought that was very wise of him to own up to it, to say, hey, I made a mistake not getting these younger guys ready to play. And I made a mistake just sitting on the football, even though the games are out of hand. He did mention that, hey, it could be a sportsmanship type of question in the end, but I owe it to these kids to give them the opportunity to run our full offense. And when you see that, Dave, it's going to pay dividends come November, December, January.
What are your thoughts on this? I've had people ask me this. I want to get your thoughts because Caden Curry looks good. So does Kenyatta Jackson. JTT, I know it's not really JTT, but even the coaches call him that, has not really flashed yet. Steve on YouTube, J-Book, is Caden Curry better than JTT?
That's a tough one because Caden looks good. He really does look good. JT does a lot of things that's not going to be flashing, jumping off the TV. He cleans up a lot. He helps keep those linebackers clean. You definitely want to see more of JT getting after the quarterback, putting on some more pressures. Right now, I would say no, because I do think that JT is going to be a first 3-round type of pick. I couldn't say that right now about Caden Curry, but Caden Curry probably has a much higher ceiling, just in my opinion. But as far as where they're at in their career, I would say JT's better right now. But long term, if you gave those reps next year and stuff where Caden Curry is a full-time starter, he has the potential to be really, really good.
We're going to talk more Ohio State football in just a moment, but I want to let you guys know about HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit, and a great deal you guys can get. We know home-cooked meals are so much better for you, but you don't always have time to pull it off. With HelloFresh handling all the meal planning, shopping, and most of the prep, it's easier than ever to get dinner on the table quick and painless. I've told this story before, but I'll tell it one more time. So recently, I made some HelloFresh, had some Parmesan-crusted chicken, fantastic, mashed potatoes, carrots. Ate it. My wife and I, youngest daughter, loved it. Oldest daughter gets home. She makes the leftovers. She's like, this is really good. Like, when did mom make this? I'm like, mom didn't make it. I made it. She's like, shut up. When did mom make this? I'm like, no, I made it. Like, and don't tell me to shut up. But seriously, HelloFresh is awesome. You guys can get a great deal for free breakfast for life. Go to HelloFresh.com/freebucknuts. One free breakfast item per box while your subscription is active. That's free breakfast for life just by going to HelloFresh.com/freebuck. Let me do that again. That's free breakfast for life just by going to HelloFresh.com/freebucknuts. I'm going to say, if I can do it, anybody can do it. So there we go. All right. So this defense is just unbelievable. I'm going to ask about Chip Kelly, though. Let's flip to the offense for a moment. It's unbelievable that he's Ohio State's offensive coordinator. And we haven't even seen, I don't think, like even a fraction of the stuff that he's conjured up.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on what have you learned about Chip Kelly as OC so far?
He's a wizard, Dave. You got that. The first game started off a little rough early on, but second half of the first game, the entire second game, just absolutely a wizard. The RPO stuff is beautiful to see, Dave. And as you mentioned, we haven't seen a fraction. I think Ryan Day said that yesterday on his show, that we really haven't seen the offensive playbook open. So they've been working with a limited playbook here, and they purposely decided to operate that. So what you guys are watching right now, he said you're going to start seeing them adding on some really creative things as the season goes along. So what you're watching right now is not going to be the offense once they hit the meat of the Big Ten schedule. That right there is exciting. I was thinking to myself, if you're a defensive coordinator, in the way they were running that RPO, the way they were so balanced in the passing game and the running game, it's incredible. I don't know how you stop it, Dave, as a defensive coordinator. Okay, let's crowd the box to try to stop Judkins and Henderson, to try to slow them down and cheat up a little bit for the RPO action. But, what do you got here? You got Jeremiah Smith, Emeka Buka, Carnell Tate, those guys who can just burn you one-on-one on the back end. It's really amazing to see Chip Kelly operate with this type of talent, Dave. And I'm curious to see how this offense is going to go, because they can average 50 points a game. Once they really start putting the pedal down, the starters are playing the full game. Chip Kelly really opens up the playbook after he's probably not even chapter 1 in his book right now. Once he really starts opening it up, you're probably talking about a 50-point plus offense that they can average throughout the season.
I think we've also learned that special teams have improved. I think that there was nowhere to go but up, right? And they still have stuff to clean up. And Coach Day said Jaden Ballard, they might have to reassess who their kickoff returner is. So they have stuff to clean up. But I can already tell that, not having a special teams coordinator, especially not having Parker Fleming, and instead taking a page out of Jim Tressel's book. Jim Tressel suggested it, where you spread it around with all of your assistant coaches. And then Ryan Day's now more of a CEO which is another great reason to have Chip Kelly, because not only does it enhance the offense, it allows Ryan Day to step back and be the CEO. But so far, it seems like special teams have improved.
And tippity cap to Jim Tressel for that one, Dave. And as you remember, Jim Tressel had been around the program for several different opportunities given to him, and one of the big talking points was special teams. And Jim Tressel really leaned in on Ryan Day to said, "Hey, you need to divvy up the special teams to your position coaches and let them own it. And once they own it, the players will start to buy in, and they will start to own their individual special teams unit, and you're starting to see the results." So, hey, tippity cap to Jim Tressel for being a sounding board for Ryan Day when it comes to that. But I don't know what Jaden Ballard's doing, Dave. I mean, 2 weeks to start the season, 2 weeks in a row, he had an opportunity the first game to let the ball go out of bounds where they could have started up on the 35. And then this game, he against Western, he fair catches a ball that bounces, and then the offense has to start at the 6 yard line. And then you you see people on the sidelines yelling at Ballard, like, "What are you doing?" And then Coach Day on this radio show, I think he mentioned Mylan Graham might start getting the look as a kick returner. But you can't continue to have these type of errors if you're Ballard, especially if it's a huge game, Dave. If you're on the road at Oregon and this kid does something where the offense has to start inside their 10 yard line because he made a special teams blunder, that right there is a difference from Oregon potentially flipping the field on you. So you definitely got to get that cleaned up. But so far, I'm very impressed with the special teams unit, and it's so cool to see those younger guys going down there and busting their butt, because those are considered starter minutes. Once you start racking up the special teams plays and stuff, that's how you really start to make a name for yourself, and you start to letter as a Buckeye there. But that's the only thing. If they can figure out Ballard, if he can get that clean up, then 2 thumbs up.
We've already kind of touched on Jermaine Matthews. We both did, but Spider Sillery said, "Jay Buck, I want to hear your thoughts on Jermaine Matthews." You did mention him earlier, but I kind of threw Jermaine Matthews, Arvell Reese, and Caden McDonald all together. Your advanced thoughts on Mr. Jermaine Matthews?
I think Jermaine Matthews is an absolute stud. I think Jermaine is going to be. 1 second, Dave.
The little kids coming into the room. I saw it. That's all good. Hey, it's part of having kids, man. Live podcasts. That's right.
Sorry,
Show up on
Dave.
YouTube. No, you're good.
Sorry,
You're good.
Dave. My son came in to get his little watch. So I'm sorry about that. But back to Jermaine Matthews. Jermaine Matthews is a starter anywhere else in the Big Ten. He's someone that plays with a high level, and I love what Coach Knowles said is Jermaine prepares himself like he's an absolute starter. He prepares himself like he is going to play. So once he got his number called in this last game when Burke went out, you didn't see any type of drop off. So you have to give a credit to him to really make sure that his game is on point, his number is called. But I love Jermaine's game. And the one thing about Jermaine, Dave, tremendous technique. You can praise Coach Walt for that, but he has tremendous technique as a corner. And I love the way he plays with that fire too. Ohio boys, them Ohio corners, they play with a different type of chip on their shoulder.
You'd know something about that, wouldn't you?
Hey, I love it, man. I mean, you go down the line, you look at Marshawn, you look at Ward, you look at Jermaine, you look at Aaron Scott. We got a couple of youngsters coming up in the pipeline in high school now. Like those Ohio corners, they're just built different.
And the Texas corners.
And the Texas corners. We'll take those too, because hey, we got the young ones coming up too. Mrs. Sanchez, his son, he's an absolute beast. And hopefully we can keep the Alabama one in the fold as well.
Jeff Okuda was from Texas. Ashton Ubody's from Texas. Devin Sanchez. We've had others too. Devin Sanchez is going to be the next great corner to come from Texas to Ohio State.
I was talking about the Georgia pipeline that we have with Roby and Hancock and McDonald and who else was there from that Cam Hayward?
Cam Hayward, yeah.
Yeah, that little pocket right there in Georgia, it's been very friendly to the Buckeyes.
No doubt about it. That's a good area If you're going to go out of state, yeah, go to Florida, go to Georgia, go to Texas, go to California. Those are
Yeah.
the places you want to go. Pennsylvania, it's pretty good. Jersey. But yeah, the big four, man. Florida. It used to be the big three: Florida, California, Texas. Then Georgia's really, it's a big four now. Georgia's in there as well. Let's get your thoughts on this. We talked about this a little bit. Hollywood Hager. Now, Michigan's playing Arkansas State tomorrow. I want to be clear on this. But the following week, USC gets to come to Ann Arbor. The advanced line, USC is a 9.5-point favorite. Entering the season, Michigan was favored in that game.
Right.
How fast things have changed up north, shockingly. But yeah, I've got USC. I think USC will win that game by double digits. I don't think it'll be a blowout. I don't think they're as good as Texas, but I think USC is going to win by double digits. What do you think?
Michigan's in trouble, Dave.
Mhm.
They are in trouble. The one calling card that the program has been able to hang their hat on over the last several years was stout defense, solid up front, being able to run the football. They can't do that right now. And people are saying Davis Warren is this, Davis Warren is that. Davis Warren's graded out as the top offensive player against Texas. The problem that Michigan has, they have zero playmakers on the outside. Zero. So if you bracket Loveland, the tight end, cheat your safeties up 10 to 12 yards to kind of lean in on that run game, you can shut Michigan's offense down. And Mason Graham got absolutely dominated against Texas. A lot of people were praising him to be like he's the Hulk down there in the middle of the field. And that Michigan defense front, they got absolutely slaughtered by that Texas offense and offensive line. Wink Martindale, I mean, he is Don Brown 2.0, the way he blitz and does crazy stuff. I
Yeah.
mean, if you have any type of wide receivers that can spread them out, you can mesh those guys to death because Wink is so undisciplined with his blitzing and putting his guys on islands that you can't run what he's trying to run on the college level. And the one thing that Texas did, and I've been saying it for several years, make Michigan get out of their comfort zone. Once Texas jumped up on them, Dave, right then and there, okay, we can't sit on the football and have 8-9 minute drives and think we're just going to get out of here with a dub. Nope. You're going to make Michigan have to play with a sense of urgency once you jump out on them. And once you do that, they're totally out of their comfort zone and they start pressing. That's when you start seeing the turnovers and you can start to pin your ears back on those guys.
Let's get you out of here on this one. A lot of people are asking this. I've answered this. Curious to get your thoughts. Scott Gray on YouTube. J-Book. Should Julian Sand be the number 2 quarterback?
I'm okay with Devin being the number 2 quarterback right now, Dave. I don't think Devin has played bad by any means. Yes, Sam was in there, but keep in mind he's playing against some of the backups and stuff. But there's no need to rush Julian Sane right now. I think the game plan that they had with them, with getting Devin and Julian some playing time, I thought that was very critical there. But I'm good with Devin Brown still being the number 2 quarterback.
I'm good with it for now. Let me ask you this. Heaven forbid Will Howard gets hurt and they have a big game. Who do you want starting at quarterback, Julian Sand or Devin Brown later in the season?
Depends on where they're at. If you're talking about on the road at Oregon, give me Devin Brown right now to hope that you can get out of there with a dub. If you're at home against Penn State or against Nebraska, then I think you're going to have to lean on what you've been seeing in practice. Is Julian saying ready? The question will be then, Dave, is who can lose you the game? Is Devin Brown more likely to lose you the game, or is Julian saying more likely to lose the game for you? Because at that point, you have so much talent. You just want to be able to get out of there if you have a situation where Will Howard goes down. I don't need someone to come in there and throw a pick six. I don't need someone to come in there and not be able to get the protections because a lot of people look at Julian saying, say, hey, he should be quarterback too, but there's more to just going out there and throwing it. We witnessed it with Lincoln Keyholtz against Missouri to where he didn't know the protections or the scheme. So Travion Henderson was back there telling him what the protections should be. And we saw it. We had free hitters and free free runners in that Missouri game because the quarterback didn't know how to slide in protection. Can Julian get in there and do that? If he does, then he will have a shot, Dave. But those are all questions that will have to be answered in practice.
Great stuff as always from Jonah Booker. Tell Kyler, thanks for making an appearance on the show. Your son
I'll tell
Kyler
him.
had a very, very brief appearance and you shut off the camera. It's like, we can see Kyler. It's all good. Tell him Uncle Dave said hi. Great stuff. Great stuff as always, my friend. I appreciate it.
All right. Talk to you next week, my friend.
All right. Thank you. He is the man. He's the one and only Jonah Booker. Thank you very much to Jay Book. And thanks to all of you. Appreciate you guys. Large live audience. Appreciate everybody listening to the podcast version. Can't thank you guys enough. Thanks again to Jay Book. Thanks to all of you. Hope everyone has a great day and a great weekend. And if you're still with me, I want to let you guys know about our friends at Manscaped and a great deal you guys can get. It's football season and it's fantasy football season. All right, guys, it's the best time of the year. Football's back. We're talking NFL Sundays, college football Saturdays, and that glorious grind of fantasy football lineups. This is where your inner GM comes alive, setting the perfect fantasy roster, screaming at your TV and making last-minute waiver moves, either make you a hero or the guy everyone ridicules in the group chat. But listen, while you're over here making sure your fantasy team is dialed in, don't let your personal grooming become the guy that gets left on the bench. Let's be honest, nobody wants to fumble their grooming routine. That's where Manscaped's Performance Package 5.0 Ultra comes in, acting as your all-in-one grooming playbook. From keeping things sharp down below the waist with the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra to taking care of those rogue nose and ear hairs with the Weed Whacker 2.0, this is the lineup that'll keep you looking and feeling like a champ on and off the field. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code Bucknuts at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code Bucknuts at manscaped.com. Stay on top of your grooming game and be ready for anything the season throws your way with Manscaped. All right. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Again, hope everyone has a great day and a great weekend. Thanks to J-Book, and thanks to all of you.